Hey, everybody, just give me a second here to set up and then we'll get to it. I'll give you your fancy opening. We'll do the countdown and we'll go from there. Here's your fancy opening. Let's get some music so we can get the party started. Time it is. All right. Hold on. And then we'll get to it here. Good morning, everybody. Well, that's not as prophetic as I thought it was going to open up. Hold on. Hold on. All right. Just FYI, I will be here at 8:15 tomorrow for CPI, so we will be on time. 8:15 tomorrow, and let's just get going here on a couple of these things. So let me just drop that down right there. Perfect. And move this over here, and we are good to go. I'm just going to run through a bunch of stuff that I think is important. I'm going to make sure the music's off because I have you guys all muted right now, and then we'll get to it. So we're going to do the ES really quickly and then go from there. But I do want to do this in the all right, so let's take a look at the ES, and I want to do this on a 15-minute. And I really want to do this on, hold on one second. Let's go here. Yep, go to this. Leave it there. Good. And let's do this. Okay. And we're going to start there. All right. So here's your drop down bar at 1 o'clock. Everybody's cheering. Japan makes some moves. Someone else makes a move. Everyone goes from yay to boo. So what I would do is I would just watch your battlegrounds very, very carefully. You can see your battleground right here and how you just fell apart in 15 minutes. You guys, if you're going to trade after hours, then you got to trade after hours. You have to start understanding what Japan's doing, what China's doing. You have to start understanding all those moving parts. There's a lot of money in it, but I know people that's all they do. They only trade like ES after hours, like the Asian markets, London markets, that kind of thing. But there's a whole thing to it. So just understand that. I don't know that you got to go all the way back here. We have to spend all that time on it. I think your entire life story on the ES is right here, quite frankly, right now. You have CPI tomorrow. I don't think that you're really going to do much now, unless we have another, meeting with Trump, and he's going to tell us the words fruitful again. I don't really know what else you're going to have that's going to mark us. We could look at all this other stuff and the breakout and where you would drop down to, which is the Friday 8:30 level, but you have CPI tomorrow. So from my perspective, this is how I see your big dog levels. And they're the levels that I would really be paying attention to more than anything else. Let's see if we can make that perfect. Yeah, I think that's pretty good, don't you? I really think that that's how you should, or how we should be focused on it, like from a larger standpoint. I'm not going to get into the RSI this morning. Voice is so scratchy. I just think that right now, all you're trying to do is ride out to CPI, and less is going to be more to me today, quite frankly. So that's really where my head is with it. See these levels right in here, and you should be able to see this as well. And I'm going to drop that here because then it allows me to, well, sometimes it does. There it goes. So you're kind of wedged in here. And rising wedges to me end in tears. So I'd be super careful. If you click on this, just and clone it, you start looking for like areas where you could see the fork. And you can see it a little bit in here if I start to show it, those areas. So it definitely exists. You definitely have that kind of channel, right? Usually when you have these trends, there's those, like if you have these, they're within there as well. There's other ones. So you can break out of that, but I think you gotta be super careful here. Like I think too many people are just on board with this as if saying, "Oh no, everything's fine." I think tactically you might be. I think tactically you might be due for a pullback. I guess is the way I want to say it. It just feels heavy, and we're not really having that follow through. And then what I've noticed as well is that when we're rallying, those rallies they're not sustainable. So anything that I'm in, I could buy again. Even the swings I'm putting on, I could just buy them again. Like whenever you start to see that stuff, you really want to pay attention to it. I don't think that you have to. That's a pretty big level right there. So if you break that, the question is, do you just stop at that again? Because you can see that, this is when they walked us down and then gapped us up. You never filled that. So I'm wondering if that's what's coming down to here, because I do think that you have to fill this to an extent, and you haven't done it yet. And that'll present an opportunity to buy, but they're your real big levels on the SPY. And again, I don't think you're going to have a whole heck of a lot that goes on today. You will on the chart, like in the stock wise, but what are you going to have? Like Tesla, he loves me not, that love affair, the Real Housewives of DC once again, but whatever, other than that, what do you really have today? You've got some Taiwan semi news that's really good. The news that's coming out is very good. I don't think you're going to make any progress, obviously, with tariffs anytime soon. I just don't see it. And, what they're going to keep doing is, let me just, is that the one I want? That's the one I want. I personally think he's going to keep just extending them. Oh, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to do this. These tariffs are on. And then they're off by the weekend, tariff off, tariff on, and it's just going to lose its luster. No one's going to pay attention to it anymore. And that's just the way it is. Like they're just not going to pay attention to them with it anymore. It's not going to be taken seriously. As far as NVIDIA and levels, these breakouts and failures, you were rallying yesterday because they thought that they were going to get some kind of deal that was going to allow them to, that's why Letnick was there. And you just didn't get that at all. You didn't get any kind of deal. Like people expected, you can see the level super clear on what you need to hold. It's like 21. It's like actually 41.84 or something like that. But it's got me marked off at 142. And you can see it right down here too. That 63 level. You got a couple of them here you want to watch. You actually have a band in here really that I pay attention to. But more interested in buying the dips than buying these breakouts. These breakouts just keep failing over and over and over again. They just do. Like, oh, look, it's time to get in. And then it's like, womp, womp. Oh, you better get in. And then when you see this over and over again, it's pretty clear this actually mimicked the index pretty well, didn't it? So again, super, super careful. And I can mark off all these other little minor ones, but I focus on the big ones, and the fact that you hit 145 and rejected like that, it's super important to me to look at that and try to figure it out. Apple is just a dumpster fire, but it's the only dumpster fire that makes the phone that everybody uses. Nobody wants the green bubble. So, they just really don't seem to get it together. Someone's going to come out and be a competitor for them if this keeps up. I can see why when we start seeing what's coming out of China and we start seeing what's coming out of here, you can start seeing why all of a sudden people are like, oh, yeah, no wonder they're losing market share in China. They're just being outperformed over and over and over again. So, in regards to Apple, I don't really think there's a trade there. I think it's something you have to kind of watch. But if anything, it would be more of a, you short the 205 level. That's really been a key area here. And that's kind of how I say it. 204, 205, you run up there again, just short it. It's just a dumpster fire, but they can't really get it together. I have a long-term position in this. I'm really reevaluating my life choices right now because I just, like them changing the color and making some kind of screen different so that I have to deal with the new screen. Like nobody needs your new screen. It's a phone, man. So if it can't do more, then there's no reason to keep upgrading the thing. There just isn't. So we keep talking about this massive upgrade cycle with AI intelligence, and they're so far behind. It's not even funny. They really are so far behind. You're watching some major changes here with tech, and it's like major changes. I was thinking about the other day with search and how search has changed so fast. And I don't think a lot of people even understand that. These are the two levels, the two big levels I'd watch on AVGO. You definitely don't want to break that 241.11. If you do, you could really head back. But my hope here is that's not what happens. PLTR, a lot of people super excited about this. All we've done is come back to this level. I kind of sound like a Debbie Downer when I'm pointing at these charts, but you really didn't do anything. Like everyone's like, oh, look, it's running. Like, okay, so you back to levels that you were like a week ago. I would just be, again, super careful with this stuff. I don't think you have to worry about that today, but could you get back down here to this 126.08? Yeah, pretty quickly, actually. So, these they're called frozen ropes when you move like this. See how tight that is? And it's just that marching order. That's what they're called. They're called frozen ropes because eventually that rope it'll snap. And when they do, they're pretty vicious. I'll give you an example of one that's pretty obvious. I think it is anyway, but I'll show you it. If you take a look at CBNA, and you go and take a look at this on a daily, it's like every single day you're up, you're up, you're up. Eventually you're going to get this bar. Like here, this was earnings, but you're going to get this bar that just like out of nowhere. And then those bars like this, like that's the tone. Now these have been earnings, but you'll see it. And when you get it, you just got to be super careful these names. I think Zell's probably going to have one today that's going to show it, where you just up, 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 and then all of a sudden you just get this straight bar down. So they can happen on 5-minute charts. They can happen on any kind of chart. But when you start to see this kind of stuff, I'll show you, where the RSI is higher here and you're lower here, it's just a matter of time. This has to like work its way off, and it takes time. It just doesn't happen. So, I'm not a huge buyer of this here, even though I like the name. I think it's got to come in. I think it's got to come in pretty hard, quite frankly. Amazon, to me, is setting up, and you flipped yesterday, so it actually looks fairly decent. But you have some levels here. You probably just watch like that 215 level. And then of course, you just want to watch how you act at the 223 level. Like they're your real big levels. And of course, you just wouldn't want to see it break that low right there. I don't know if that's the right level. Is that it? 212.88. Yeah, that's fine. So I watch this, but you're starting to see buying in there. I think a lot of people had a lot of hopes yesterday with what they were seeing from the administration, but it's very clear Lutnick has a very different agenda. That's a shooting star, by the way. It's not a big one, but it's there. So I'd watch that. Darn my voice today. They're your big levels on Meta. MSTR. Yeah. So a lot of people are looking at this and going, why isn't this moving? Well, you have more vehicles now that you can trade, for one. You are still above that peak VWAP. You just came right down to that area and then you kind of held. I keep a long-term position in this thing, but I think the NAV is a little different. So that's your really big level right there, 398.91. Do you gap fill? Do you not? Yeah, I don't really have a clue to that, but that's your super, like your super resistance, and you're about to head right into it. So I do think that's a little bit of a pickle. ASTS got added to an index today. I wouldn't want to be short something that got added to an index. A lot of people think it's done because, Elon and Trump, hugged it out kind of. Okay. So the way to look at this stuff is, what do you expect him to say to some extent? But do you think he's going to extend him the same kind of courtesy, that he did before? Probably not. So if I'm looking at ASTS, and I forget what it was added to, Russell 1000. I think that's it. Tell you in a minute. But if I'm looking at something like this and set to join Russell 2000, it looks like. No, that was before. Hold on. It was in the 2000 and the 3000. It just got added to some. I thought it got added to something today, didn't it? Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it did. Hold on. Why can't I find it? During the Russell 1000, effective the 27th. So if you look at something like that, like, who would want to stay short? And a lot of people don't have that name that own the Russell 1000. So it's definitely going to be of interest to people. Like, that can squeeze. And it might mean why. It kind of explains why this one was so strong yesterday. But I wouldn't want to do that. I think you're at, let me just run it real quick, 20% of the float. 20% of the float is short. 16 million shares as of this morning. Good luck with that. You can see how we held our level. Could you take out the highs? Yeah. I mean, I don't know who would want to stay short it. It's definitely not something that I would want to do. So, like, that's like your oh crap moment. Like, I knew they were gonna mend the relationship. You're not gonna need ASTS, and then, like, I don't know. You want to lose $500 million? Stay short. I mean, that's what the shorts are. That's what the shorts have. That's the short position right now. Good luck with that. And you have massive buyers. Like, people have to buy the name now, so they don't have a choice because you were at it. But do you want to chase it? I don't know. I want to chase it pre-market, but I don't think you have to. So that's it. One of the dudes been buying that thing since $4. It's killing it in it. Let's get to questions. Yeah, CoreWeave. I say it. I do think that you have to look at this stuff for what it is. The idea that you were going to get a deal yesterday really rallied this thing, and then you didn't. So where you really have to look at it is like this now. Here's your 4-hour. You're trying to break out. Your first attempt, you usually do. Now, if you don't, you're going to have a problem. And you can start to see the RSI here. What you really have to watch is, are you going to get some kind of 4-hour break here that rolls over? And if you do, while you're up here, might be time to buy some long dated puts. So, it might be getting to that time. So I'm going to look at this in some detail, but it might be getting there. It might be getting there. So I'm usually early with this stuff. I just am. Flute, ARM. Yeah, I saw this yesterday. I just think you have to be super careful here with all these names. Like, right now, what is the impetus that's going to get this thing to move? Why are you going to break out? I don't know. I see it. I guess my concern is, we seem to have been moving on a restriction being lifted on China. And quite frankly, there's just no way that that's going to happen. There just isn't. Just FYI, guys. I know sometimes I come in late, and that these times are scattered. It's why I tell everyone to just subscribe to the channel. And most people do. But tomorrow at 8:15. People are trading that in the room. They're doing very well with it. Flute, it's a clean break. Flutter Entertainment, I don't know what they do. Not a clue. That's a clean breakout. That is. I don't like charts like this that are that ugly and not that tight. But it is a clean breakout. Good day from Tokyo. Good day from Miami. Yeah, I don't know that you're going to ignore bad news. I think that you can ignore it. I think you can ignore it tomorrow. The way that I always look at this stuff is I look at crude oil. And what I tend to do with it is, and it's shocking how well it works. But if I go take a look at crude and I go back to May 1st, which is here, and I drop, let me just make sure, there it is. And I drop a line from there. And then I go to something like April 1st. And so what you're seeing here is that the cost of oil since this date has gone up. So, and now if I go to something like April, which will be here, you will see that the cost of oil from April on average, right, is still above May. But by the time you came out on average cost to 30 for CPI, it came in lower. You have the exact opposite here. So in other words, the average was higher, but the mark, by the time they marked it, it was dropping the entire time, right? So what you have here going into tonight, I'll cover this in tonight's video in greater detail to prepare for it. But what you have going on here is you have oil and the cost of oil going up into CPI. It's not good. So that usually when this happens, CPI can come out surprised. What people don't understand is 2/3 of our GDP is tied to the price of oil, one way or another. Whether it's your rent and the handyman and the cost to get the handyman out, or to go buy oil for the car, whatever it is, it's out there and it's very, very real. So it's definitely something that I pay attention to. I also pay attention to this, and it usually looks very similar, where you'll see this from April 2nd on, where you would go and take a look at it and go here and go, oh, okay. So from April to here, right, you can see the drop from where you started, from where your mark was to here. And then they look very similar usually. But what you can do is you can even take the percentage between them, and then you note between the average and where you started here to where you're at that you're higher. You don't want to be higher. You want to be lower than the average. So it's definitely an issue. So sometimes when that happens, the CPI comes out hotter than expected and people don't know why. It's usually just the cost of gas and oil. People are like, well, it doesn't matter for core. It's in everything. It's factored into everything. Transportation costs are factored into everything. Manufacturing of goods, it's in everything. So, Rockefeller made sure of it. So it's in everything. That's how I prep for it and look for it. How much is that number going to matter with tariff on, tariff off? I don't know. I don't have a clue. I truly don't know how much it's going to matter. The market's probably predicting a 1% to 2% move as usual, but I really don't have an answer to that. So, but you have been lifting up, and I think the market's tired here. I think it's tired. Taco Tuesday. So yeah, we got a lot going on, but ARCX I want to look at for sure. I definitely want to look at this. Yeah, I think some of this stuff, I was looking at Arcade the other day, but something like this, yeah, you want to start paying attention to this stuff. You definitely want to start paying attention to this kind of stuff. It can just keep pushing. It really can. This stuff's not going away. It's just not. So if you want her to buy it instead of you, I think this makes perfect sense. It's not going to go away. And she's going to bury Tesla in here again. So if you want to buy Tesla and own it, I'm sure it's in the top 10, right? So you should be looking at this. I should probably put that in the red zone. Hands down, you want to be looking at that. I agree with that one. Any of these names, like they're not going anywhere. Like ASTS, Rocket Labs, like people think that this stuff's over. This move's not over because they hugged it out. Far from it. Far from it. So, this is kind of where my head is with it. Yeah, I think you're okay there with VA, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere of consequence. I don't like that wick. I like the volume, but I don't like that wick. It should have pushed. Anytime I'm not over 50% on a bar that breaks out, to me, it might as well be red. You could definitely look at this kind of stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. if you look at what the market's doing, it's pushing on these kinds of names for sure. I just don't know that I want to do it, but it's definitely lifting. I mean, there's no end ifs or buts about it. It's been doing it since you broke out. It really has. I mean, it's 170. It's never ever had an issue. 200's here, and then you would have got. Well, I would have gotten stopped out in here somewhere, because I'm sure that this would have also aligned with something like this with these flipping colors. Back here, it actually would have happened. Well, where is that thing? Where's the 200? Where it would have hit? Like, right? Is it right in here? Yeah. There's no question I would have been out of that thing. Right. Yep. I would have been out for sure. So it definitely would have got me and then ripped. I mean, as long as you're above 208, I don't really see a problem. Like, if you're a long-term guy in that thing, as long as you're not breaking that, I mean, resistance, doji holds intraday, rallies up, hits, back tests, holds, forms a doji, flips the doji, goes new high. I'm very clear where that stop is placed now, right? Like, that's not rocket science. I mean, you probably already had that marked off. Probably don't need me to point that support level out to you, right? Now it flipped to resistance here, and now how that level's flipped now to support and test it. You probably already saw that. So, but that's how I would look at it. And you probably see it the same way, Kev. So this is where the cool kids are, that's for sure. Cracker Barrel. Well, why does everyone keep talking about Cracker Barrel? Why am I getting this wrong? There it is. Dyslexia kicks in. I'm not buying this thing. I mean, you can. Good earnings. It did well, but it was your cup and handle. I mean, it looks great, but it's just not my kind of trade. Also, all this crap in here, and then I'm going to have an issue up here. It's just not worth it to me. What's up, Julian? Guys, I'm going to have to go through these super quick. I got to hop in the room today. Yeah, I actually think that people should spend some time looking at this chart. And I think they'd be floored with how easy it was to make money on this thing. Like, I don't think people have a clue that they're just cash cows. That, they are just literally cash cows. This is one of those names, to me, it's like Spotify. And you just buy it, you forget you own it. Like, it's crazy, but it's funny where this thing was and where it is now, isn't it? I mean, it's absolutely insane where it was and where it is now. But this is one of those kinds of names. Like, as soon as they stop getting rid of all those freaking podcasts, but it's literally one of those names where there's no reason to get out of it, like, ever. You just own it, forget that you own it, and you're fine. You just have to be willing to do that with it. So that's how I see it anyway. But it's just one of those names. It's just one of those names that you buy and you just hold. You never sell, and it just keeps on grinding. I don't think you trade it. I think it's very hard to trade. I think Spotify is very hard to trade too. I do. It's 9 already. All right. Casey's MSTR went over. SMCI, I'm not going to bother everybody with, but I'll do it real quick and just tell you that this is the single largest short position by hedge funds out there on a percentage basis. If you want to bet against it, go for it. It might work. Plug and fuel cell. What's going on, Jay? What are you coming at me with? Chargers? I don't know, bro. I'm not touching them. You're probably right, but I'm not touching them. IBM, I've been hearing forever. And this was really it, was that earnings call was the time to buy it. But IBM is quantum computing, and I mean, it just is. So, yeah, I mean, I think people are finally figuring it out. This was really just a gift that I didn't take advantage of. It just slapped their hand away on that gift. But hands down, that was a gift, man. And I would like that to pull back. And they're in the quantum QTUM fund. Yeah, you tried and you failed. So to me, I own this, by the way. You need the breakout here. I mean, you just do. It's not rocket science, but you need the breakout at this point. I don't know that I'd buy Coinbase for the next 6 to 12 months. I think Coinbase is going to have a lot of competition coming up. I don't know if this Galaxy is going to do something similar to what they're doing, but I will say that, you know, Gemini is going to go public. And Gemini is really, like, to me, you see it with eToro too. Like, Gemini to me is the one that I would own. I would buy Gemini when they go public. Gemini to me is one that you would buy, own, and leave on. And the reason for that is the difference in the way that Gemini's ran versus the way Coinbase's ran is two completely different companies. In my opinion, as far as customer service, like it's not even close. Like it just is. It's like what got me about, like, when people talk about Sophie. So when I go through this, like what I always do is just, I will actually try to use the product and see why. I like with using Sophie. Oh my God. Like I got it. I'm like, oh, it's so easy. Robinhood, I get it. It's super easy. Coinbase is a pain. And it's the only game in town that's public right now. But they are not easy to use. It's not user friendly. It's not like if you versus something like Gemini, like just like super easy to use. And I don't know, 6 to 12 months. I really don't know. I think that they're going to have some real competition out there. I really do. I think that when Gemini goes public, it's going to be something. And you're starting to see everybody chomping at the bit because they're watching this kind of stuff. Let's go public again. And private equity companies are going to have to go public. So you're going to get more and more offerings. There's no doubt about it. I'm going to just try and get through this as fast as possible and say, what's up, Darren? Let's do this. CRCL. I don't think there's much to say here on this. I mean, it is what it is. Like, eventually it's going to end in tears. It's just a question of when, right? Like, the easiest way to do this stuff is drop a VWAP on the peak and just watch how it acts when it gets there, and go from there. That's the easiest way to do. And then start seeing if you start breaking closes, because there's your close. It's actually a little lower, but you want to see that. Do I start breaking that close? Like, there's your whole chart right there. There's your whole trade right there. I just did the whole thing, but that's how I would look at it. I got to jump, guys. I got a ton to do. Trade to win today, guys.